Hello everybody, welcome to Sold Exclamation Point. I just got done doing a video where I discussed new development in the business and the storefront. It went about 17 minutes and I decided to post that as a separate video so that the sold video wasn't ridiculously long. So I'm not going to talk about that at all. You can look at that in the video just before this one. We had about $1,000. Well, we had a little over $1,000 in weekend sales, so this is going to be a fun one. Lots of really cool stuff got sold. So let's get into it. We're going to start with two pennants. One is a vintage South Dakota State Jackrabbit. Very nice, a little bit of fading over here, but very strong pennant. This would be a 70s pennant. $60 for that one. When it comes to pennants, especially NCAA, the small schools are commanding more money because there's just not as much supply as far as vintage pennants go. Some of the bigger schools, you'll go on eBay and there might be 5 or 6 of them listed, whereas like South Dakota State, I have the only one. I got a VCU, I had the only one. So those ones are or VMI is what I'm thinking of. I have VCU too, but if you got the only one, I'm getting very good prices. So $60 for that one. I did get a Nebraska one. This one I have the only one with this guy over here, this logo. That's another thing you don't want to look at. So if you go to Huskers and there's 10 vintage Huskers, but you're the only one with specific logo, you have the only one and you want to price those up. This one is in good condition, definitely displayable, but it's got a lot of heavy cracking, a little bit of staining on the binding there. Overall good, but not going to be in mint condition. So $40 for this one. Had it been in mint condition, I probably would have asked $100 for it, just because that graphic was so cool. That logo was so cool. So next up we got a Iowa Cubs. Nice little big logo shirt, and it's also 2XL. It's only an XL. This is a big XL. This is why I put measurements in all my listings. So this is probably a size more like a 2XL. So I always put measurements in there so people get the actual size that they want. 15 for that one. Next up, we got a Mitchell & Ness. This is a size 64. Ken Griffey Jr. This is the 1995 jersey, I believe, with the Negro Leagues patch on it. 64. This one I've worn a few times in our videos, and it's when I wear it, it's like way too big for me, and it always makes me feel good because there's literally nothing in this world that I put on and I go, wow, that's way too big for me, except for that jersey. So makes it feel like I'm not as big as I actually am. All right, so that one went for $157. I could have held out for $200. I have a jersey guy that I, especially with basketball and Mitchell & Ness, I rely on him a lot for information, especially authenticity, because I'm not very good at Mitchell & Ness. So I go, hey man, is this a good jersey? Told me it was an authentic jersey, not authentic as in pro, but a real issue, not a bootleg. But he had told me that the really big sizes for jerseys actually have to be discounted, which is sort of counter to apparel in general, where big sizes, especially in fashion brands, Ralph Lauren or Eddie Bauer or whatever. If you get a 5XL tee, you're going to be able to ask another 40% for that, another 50% for that. Apparently in jerseys, it does need to be discounted. I had it up for $250 for a while. I got the $150. I'm trying to make some sales before the store gets open. It took a while to get them even up to $150. I figured, make the sale. I guess I should have held out for 200, but I'm happy with the sale regardless. Next up, we have this Chris Carter champion, vintage champion, and they also ordered a couple of these touchdown towels with it. I actually don't like listing these; they're really low value. However, in a perfect world, I would always sell them with a jersey, because I just throw it in, no big deal. It's not a new shipment, so this is just makes the sale a little bigger. If it was always like that, I would love selling these towels. But usually people just buy one towel, and now it's a $9 sale, and I gotta do a special shipment for that. So I'm very happy about this sale. They bought a jersey. They just added a couple things to it. Really awesome. The Chris Carter went for $54 with the 2 towels. Alright, we got that one. Next up, this one's a really great Minnesota Vikings sweatshirt. And now it's the 1992 Central Division champions. That doesn't mean anything. We didn't win the Super Bowl. However, the sweatshirt, well, 2 things. One, enough time has passed where this is just old, So I've discussed before, like, if you find a 2014 Central Division champion and they lost in the first round of the playoffs, I just pass on that all day long. It's just, if anything, you're disappointed, not happy about the memories of that season, even though you were good enough to make the playoffs. But after enough time passed, then it's just, very vintage. We're talking 27 years ago, so, and it's in really great condition. The graphic is really nice. The screen print has held up. My guess is they wore it once. Whoever bought it wore it once and never wear it again. It's actually a really nice sweatshirt. It has these ribbed sides on it. Whenever you see a sweatshirt with ribbed sides, that's a great indication that it's a very high quality sweatshirt. That is an absolute added expense during the manufacturing process, and they will only do that on higher quality goods. So whenever you see that when you're out hunting, just understand that that's a good sign, and the retail price point for that piece originally was a lot higher than ones with regular size, and thus we can extrapolate 2 things. One is higher quality, you can ask for more money, but 2, because it was higher quality, because it was higher price, as I discussed in a previous video about price and its relation to the quantity demanded, as the price rises, the quantity demanded falls. So that means not as many sold because they were at the higher price point, which means it is a little more rare just in general. So we know that sweatshirt didn't sell as many as other Viking sweatshirts from 1992. This one is perplexing to me. Minnesota Gophers, massive Marvin the Martian head. When I got this, I thought it was going to fly out my store, and I had it forever. Somebody made a very low offer, and I was just like, somebody needs to be wearing this. I don't know why I didn't sell. I'm baffled in this business all the time, where I'll have some generic, no big deal shirt, and I'll sell in a day, and I'll go, oh, okay, that's cool, and then I'll have something awesome like that Marvin the Martian, and it just sits forever. I don't know. I don't understand it. Oh, by the way, 92 Vikings went for 37. Marvin the Martian went for 16. Now, 16 is good for a t-shirt, but let's be honest, I should have got 25 for that, and it should have sold in a week. So, that's a baffling one. UNI Panthers, obviously, we're selling a lot of NCAA. It's because school year has started, football is starting. UNI went for 13. This is nice. So, this is a really nice embroidered and pat Minnesota Gopher t-shirt. It's vintage. It's also made by a very small company called Wolf. Now, what's cool is when you do this for a while, and so like I've estimated that I've touched and looked at over 1 million pieces of clothing by now. Just hunting. Once you've done that, you've seen so many tags that if you see a tag that you've never seen before, you know that there's not a lot have been made. I've actually seen this tag before, but only a couple of times previous. My guess is it must have been a regional company that had the license for a year or two. But very, very high quality, very heavyweight shirt. The patching's very nice. They really put a lot of quality into their shirts, so I did ask a little more for that. Although that one's been listed for a while. $21, so that's a very good price for a relatively simple T-shirt. Next up, we got Dolphins. This is a Youth XL. Youth XL doesn't sell for as much as adult men. However, women tend to fit Youth XL quite often, so that I don't know what it is, but my guess is probably half and half. Half times you sell one, you're going to sell it because the kid's going to wear it, and other half time it's just because a woman is going to wear it because she fits into it. And not a lot of sports apparel, especially vintage sports apparel, was made for women. Almost none of it was. And so they are going to have to go off men's sizes for the most part. $21 for that. So had that been a men's large, I would have asked probably $30 for it. It's vintage, it's really nice, the screen print's good, but because it's Youth XL, the price dropped. Another embroidered Gopher sweatshirt. Another smaller company, this one's called Red Oak. Again, this is one of those things where I've seen over 1 million pieces of clothing, and this is not I've seen it a handful of times, but not very often. Another high quality shirt. I also like those herringbone shirts, sweatshirts. They were one of my favorites when I was a kid. I wasn't a huge fan of the design, but I'm a huge fan of the herringbone. That went for 21 as well. I think that one didn't go for as much because of the design. I think the design, even though it was embroidered, it was kind of simple. There wasn't anything particularly epic about it. You're like, oh man, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. But that's actually a very high quality sweatshirt, and whoever bought that should be extremely happy with their purchase. All right, we're still going. Still more stuff. Next up, 1996 All-Star Game. This is Sports Specialties. We got a big side logo on the side. Believe it or not, the side logo or side patch is on the side of the hat. This is dead stock, but not in perfect mint condition. There's some creasing, but it's pretty close to mint. Probably a 7 for a hat. I don't give out grades when I'm selling, but I'll do it after the fact. I had a peculiar exchange with this buyer. He had asked me to do a bunch of stuff that I don't normally do, and I was like, he asked me after the sale. I said, I can, if we want to talk about an extra payment, I can do whatever you want, I guess, if we agree upon it. And he got real belligerent with me. I'm not a big fan of people agreeing to purchase something and then saying, hey, here's a bunch of other stuff I want you to do. That's not the way contracts work. I don't believe that buyers are supremely powerful and sellers are have to do whatever buyers say. The concept that the buyer is always right is not something I ascribe to. Now, in customer service, one of the things I've always said was not only is the buyer not always right, they're usually wrong. The reason why they're usually wrong is because I do this every day. They almost never do it. Who's probably right? It's probably the person in the company is probably going to be right. Now, the second part of that statement is we don't got to tell them that they're wrong. So I don't lord it over that they don't know the policy or they don't know the whatever. But he got a little belligerent, and I said, well, you asked for extra stuff after the sale. In the future, what I would like is if you made an offer and put in the term, please ship it in this manner, and that's contingent, or that's part of my offer. So if you don't want to do it, you would decline the offer, and if you didn't want to do it, you would accept it, and it would be agreed upon before the sale. Got really upset about that. I told him I'd be willing to cancel it. I gave him a really good deal, $92 for that hat. That's a $150 hat. I mean, I gave him a ridiculously good deal. So he doesn't want to cancel a sale because I gave him a crazy good deal on it. But he wants to be upset with me because he wanted me to do a bunch of stuff after the sale that I never agreed upon. So I don't know. I might get a negative from him, but I really I want to sell stuff to people who are happy to buy it. I want me to be happy. I want them to be happy. I want my client to be happy. And when someone wants to go into a transaction angry, I really don't want to do business with that customer. It soaks up time. I mean, I had to spend an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes exchanging emails, and it was just like, this isn't worth the time. Another thing to note, it has been my experience that the better a deal you give somebody, the more likely they're going to be a problem buyer. I don't know why that is. You would think someone who, like I had a guy buy 3 programs from me, $900, never said a word. He just paid full price. It was Super Bowl 1, 2, and 4 program. Never said a word. You know, just paid for it. Paid right away. I sent it to him. I got positive feedback. You know, thank you. Programs look nice. But if you give somebody a really good deal, it's just that person's going to be like, I need this, I need that. Then they'll get it and they'll say this wasn't. They're gonna find some problem and then they're gonna ask for partials. So I'm like, I really was kind of hoping I can negotiate a cancellation on this hat. I have a feeling that once he gets it, there's gonna be a problem, and so we'll find out, and I'll update you if there is. If there's not, I'll try to update you. It won't really be something not happening isn't really a story, but if I remember, I'll let you know. This one's really cool. So this is San Diego Clippers. I can't remember the background. I want to say they got the franchise, or they were trying to get the franchise, but it never happened. So it's in 1978. So what's nice about it is you can date the hat because it only happened at one point. So San Diego back in the NBA. I'd have to look it up again, see if they actually played in San Diego for a season or two or not. I just can't remember. I did that research when I first got the hat. This one's really weird. I've never seen this before. It's not broken, but it was stored in a manner where this bill is just, you know, bent, and so the bill isn't broken. Like, it'll be able to be shaped, but it's like definitely in the shape. I've never seen that before. It must have been stored in a very strange manner. Other than that, it's in really beautiful condition. So obviously I put that in the listing that the bill's wonky. That hat went for $37. Probably would have gone for maybe around $50 if the bill wasn't so wonky. This is a new hat. This was called Elements. This was an Elements series. I believe it came out about last year. This is, of course, as a Viking fan, one of my favorite. If it would have been my size, I totally would have kept it. Fortunately, I'm not someone who keeps a lot of what I find, even if I really like it. But this hat, you know, for what I paid for it, I would have totally kept it. But it's size 8, so much too big for me. $36. It's dead stock. It's never worn. I believe they were $40 in the store, so, you know. No, they're sold out. You can't buy them anymore. So, 1, they got it for that, but 2, they got about 10% off what they would have normally paid. So, okay. Florida Marlins fitted. Doesn't have tags, but it's a little bit of wrinkles from storage, maybe. But it's essentially dead stock. I don't think it's ever been worn. Okay, so here's the deal. They made so many Colorado Rockies and Florida Marlins hats. for the inaugural season, which is what this one is, that you cannot get very much money for this hat, even if it's dead stock, even if it's perfect condition, even if there's so much supply for the Marlins. And by knowing that, I actually was able to sell it very quickly because I knew not to ask for too much money. I knew to ask for the proper amount. This hat went for 19, which is actually a very, very good price for a vintage Marlins hat. One of the things that drives me nuts, so I belong to a hat group, a very good hat group with very high-end collectors. They released that inaugural hat, like a I can't remember what they called it, New Era something, and they re-released the Rockies and the Marlins, and people are paying $40 for the re-release, and I'm like, you can get a dead stock, true vintage one for half the price. And it was like, I don't know, I was so baffled by that. But yeah, so there's some hats that are vintage where, because at that point they were an expansion team, they made so much and there's still so much supply out there. A little patience and you can find the hat in very good condition for a very cheap price. Sometimes over half off what the re-release is. Okay, this is the second time we sold this hat. This is a vintage leather brimmed Roman Pro. Or leather sweatband, not leather brim. So leather sweatband. I don't know why I can't say that. It's vintage. No, it's not vintage to the era of this logo. This is a Cooperstown collection, but probably an 80s, mid to early 80s hat. Very nice condition, just beautiful condition. We sold it previously to a very nice buyer. Well, so we talked about a buyer previously. Let's talk about a very good buyer. He asked how it fit. I said I wasn't able to know what the fit was. So when he got it, he said it didn't quite fit his head. He said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to return it. I said, hey, no problem. That's what returns are for. This is literally what returns are for. I really want the hat. I tried it on. It does not fit my head. Can't use it. This is probably the first time I got a return where I wasn't a little irritated by it. I was like, hey, man, I mean, you gave it a shot. You really wanted the hat. And I was at least happy that he got a shot at maybe getting the hat. That's what returns are for. He was a very good buyer. He didn't try to say it was not as described, so I'd have to pay for return shipping. Extremely good buyer. If he would make an offer on another item of mine in the future, I wrote down his name just in case I see it again. If he made an offer, I would be a little more lenient with my pricing with him because he's not going to cause extra trouble. Very polite, very nice guy. Okay, so that's that. We still got a lot more to go. Still got a lot more to go, actually. All right, and I keep talking. That's slowing everything down. Twins ticket. I can't remember what happened. I want to say maybe not a Tomei home run, but somebody hit a home run. That went for $8. And then we sold 3 North Carolina tickets, all versus Wake Forest. So I guess it's a Wake Forest fan, not a North Carolina fan. Those 3 went for $13. The Smoky Collection, we had 2 high-rank cards sell, both JSA. First one being Miguel Cabrera, minor league issue. This is a multi-ad sport. Comes with the card. That went for $64. And the other one was a Max Scherzer. This is his Upper Deck USA card, and that went for $79. So this came out of the first variation listing I ever did, and probably my worst performing variation listing. I had bought a number of boxes of 2014 Prism Draft Football. I just really liked the product. It was fun to open. And so I did this massive variation listing, and I've done very few sales out of it. I have 249 variations with a 249 card set. Now, what I envisioned could happen never happened, except for this is the first time it happened. Somebody bought all of the base of what I had left of a specific card, which is what I thought would happen. And I have upwards of 20 of each card. This is Antonio Gates. I had 6 left. I actually sold this card as a single a couple times prior to. So $10 for the 6, which is a good solid sale. I'd rather sell 6 cards for $10 than 1 card for $5. Next up, this actually came out of Smoky Collection, but it was a pack pulled autograph. I had a little one. But I was really happy that he had some pack pulled stuff because I learned something. He had about 100 baseball autos that were pack pulled, very low level stuff. There's no rhyme or reason to it, just whatever he acquired. I made a variation listing. It's the hodgepodge of various autos. I've actually sold a number of autos out of that listing. So variation listings are interesting in the sense that I didn't even know if stuff would sell out of there because it was just pack pulled baseball auto you pick, you know. I made a number of sales out of there. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd advise it. I like to break it. I would argue that you should probably break it up in something that makes sense. The same set, the same player, same something. But you still will make sales even if you put a bunch of unrelated stuff in there. This is I don't know who this is, Tyrone Taylor, refractor auto. My guess is it's $7. So not a whole lot, but I didn't spend a lot of time listing it. Eloy, this came out of a player variation listing. This is something I'm starting to build. So this was all Eloy, Jimenez, I believe. It must be Jimenez. So I'm starting to build these out where I just have inserts and parallels and a little bit lower end of one player. I'm starting to build out variation listings of individual players. $5 for this one. I don't know why it sold for $5. It shouldn't have by itself. I had some rookie cards in there that were very well priced. I'm not sure why I didn't buy 3 or 4, but that's a reoccurring theme. That happens a lot, where I'll sell one card for more than what it's worth. Nah, okay. My only thought is that I offer tracking, and people just don't want to get screwed with an envelope. I'm not sure. 2 Smoky Collections, Sergio Nunez, and a Jason LaRue out of Bowman Heritage. Those went for $14. We had a Chris Duncan out of Just. That went for $8, probably. Yep, $8. And then we had a 10 card sale of all 2016 Top Pro debut. Kevin Kramer. That was a pretty good one. No, that's the only real big name in there. These 10 went for $34, so $3.40 a card shipped for an autograph card. That's a very good price. Almost to the end. We sold the 3 Gopher Hockey Mania guys, really from very different years. I think I had one from the 90s, one from the early 2000s, and then one from the early 10s. So, and I had some other ones, so I don't know why it was these 3. Those went for $29 for the 3. Clippers Media Guide. Again, I have lots of these. Sell-through rate is very low. $13 for the Clippers. And the last item. This is a long video. Last item that sold 3 print ads. One was a Rydell Anthony Adidas, which is kind of a cool concept for a print ad. He's so fast that you can't see him. He wasn't fast enough though that the corners couldn't cover him. They covered him just fine. Had a Fila ad here and a Fila Jam Ball sneaker ad. This is not a popular sneaker, but I really love the ad. I mean, it shows all the details of the shoe. Very, very nice ad. 3 print ads went for 16. I thought maybe I didn't write it down. And that is what I got. If you stayed for the whole video, I appreciate it. So we had a nice big weekend. Watch our previous video if you want to hear about our start and looking for a storefront for our store. And have a great day.